Richard Kent, welcome to Off the Leash podcast.
Great to be here, Mason.
Really appreciate you being here. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
I think a good place for us to start is talking a bit about you and your upbringing.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Listen, you're wearing a Yale football jersey there. Wish I had one. Wish I got admitted. Have the 2 rejection letters somewhere at home. Yep. Undergrad and law school. So I grew up in New Haven. Huge Yale fan. Went to every Yale football game. Yep. An era in which Dartmouth, always at home, 50,000. Princeton, 60,000. Went to most Yale basketball games. Of course, let's change that. Yale's way better now than they were then. Yale was awful in basketball, but great in football. And I really got my start loving sports because of Yale athletics. Mm-hmm. I went to Hamden Hall, which is right near here. Went to Rutgers undergrad, Boston College Law School. Came home back to Connecticut to practice law, and continued to be a huge Yale fan. Really got into Yale basketball in '99 when I met James Jones, actually at a football tailgate. And we just clicked, and I've done a lot of stuff with and for Yale basketball. I'm involved in a website, Ivy Hoops Online, and I wrote a book and a sequel to a book called The Madness of Ivy Basketball. And there is madness, and we're going to get to that today.
So it's fair to say that when it comes to Ivy League hoops, Ivy League sports, you're probably one of the people to go to.
Yeah, I think I'm seated 3rd nationally, probably.
There we go.
Yep.
We'll take it. I told you before on the phone, but I have a big Rutgers family as well. Both my parents and my brother went to Rutgers, so shout out Rutgers.
Yep.
Big win last week.
They beat Maryland. They're not going to lose this Saturday, that I promise you.
Who do they play?
They have a bye.
There we go.
Yep. They're going to lose the following week by 40.
Ohio State?
And then it's all about Penn State and a bowl.
There we go. 6-6 on the year. That'll be a good year if they
6-6, playing a Penn State team who unbelievably could be 0-8 in the Big Ten.
That would be wild. The Indiana game was crazy.
That catch that Indiana kid made at the end was phenomenal. And Kurt Signetti would be an idiot to go to Penn State. He needs to stay at Indiana.
Yeah. That would be sad.
Yep.
It's been cool to see what they do there.
He's got it going at Indiana.
Does.
Why go to a place when your expectation every year is to win a championship and you're not winning one?
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yep.
A good place for us to start is NIL. I say that word because it's a big topic, but we're going to dive into it a lot more. But from your...
I want to congratulate you. You said NIL. Coaches, to this day, call it NLI, which used to be the National Letter of Intent. Yep.
Yeah. NIL, name, image, and likeness.
You got it.
It started in 2021, but as you mentioned, we have to go way before that.
Sure.
So let's start before that. And I want to just pass it off to you and give you an alley-oop to set the stage for NIL in the way you please.
Well, I played guard, so I don't know if alley-oop is the way to go. But Ed O'Bannon, I don't know if you know that name. You might know it from – do you know it from basketball circles?
I don't.
Okay. He played at UCLA. They have pale blue jerseys.
They do.
So he's at a friend's house, and his friend's kid is playing a video game, and he's looking at the video game, and I think he's number 32 or 33. He sees himself, and he says, wait a minute, with a UCLA jersey, same pale blue jersey, looks like him, and he said, how could they do this? That's me. That's my likeness, man. Mm-hmm. So that's a Saturday. My hunch is on Monday or Tuesday, he went to visit a what? A lawyer.
A lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Went to visit a lawyer. And the whole ball starts then. I don't know if it's 2013 or 14, whatever it is. And case ends up before the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a lot of stuff in that decision which is indicative of we're going to do something someday. We're not quite ready to give you the whole ball of wax right now. They give college athletes a little more than college athletes had, but it was clear that the time was coming. Mm-hmm. Or as Stephen A. Smith would say, it's coming. It's coming.
And then from there
steps in Jeffrey Kessler, who's a lawyer in New York City, a friend of mine. And Jeffrey first has the Alston case, which I think originates in 18 or 19, which goes, he wins before the Ninth Circuit, which is out in California, and the NCAA commits what I consider to be one of the great acts of malpractice. They take an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. They didn't have, with the Ninth Circuit, the law of the land. But by going before the U.S. Supreme Court, they're going to establish the law of the land. And I listened to the argument on C-SPAN. It's kind of during, some part of COVID. Kavanaugh, who played, do you know what he played and where he went to school?
I do not.
He played JV basketball at Bulldog.
Yale?
At Yale. Yep. His best buddy was Chris Dudley.
Chris Dudley. NBA player.
NBA player who could not shoot free throws.
Yes.
Shot him underhanded.
Yep.
And I actually saw those guys in 2016 when Yale beats Baylor in the NCAAs in Providence. Kavanaugh starts off like this. Counselor, isn't it a fact? This is the NCAA lawyer. Counselor, isn't it a fact that you have a football coach that earns $10.5 million? Well, yeah, that would be Nick Saban. And isn't there a basketball coach earning over $9 million? Well, yeah, that would be Mike Krzyzewski. And your president, Mark Emmert, he earns $3.5 million. Where do the student athletes earn? They get a scholarship. Oh, they get a scholarship. That's wonderful. What else do they get besides a scholarship? Well, there's some pocket money and counselor. No industry in the world would permit this. Mm-hmm. No industry in the world would put up with this. Mm. I knew it was over. As soon as I heard that, I had some bets with friends. I thought it would go 7-2. Mm-hmm. You know what the decision was?
What was it?
9-0.
Wow.
That Supreme Court, and can you and I agree that today's Tuesday?
It is.
Okay. That Supreme Court couldn't agree that today's Tuesday.
Yeah, I know.
But they could agree that student athletes are entitled to additional educational benefits. And off we went with those three words. Hmm.
I'm curious. I'm currently writing my thesis, and I've been studying the NCAA from 1906 to about 1948 is where I'm at right now. And the next phase is obviously the 1948 to 2021. Why do you think it took so long?
The NCAA was omnipotent, all-powerful. No, don't tell us what to do, man. We'll do what we want to do. We have no competition. And they had crazy rules and regulations. I think I remember Rutgers having a recruit on campus. I think it was basketball, not football, after 6 p.m. on Sunday. And that was an infraction. Wow. I think the kid left at 6:05. And we know the famous adage, if Michigan commits a violation, Western Michigan gets punished. Because they don't play with Michigan, they don't play with Ohio State, but they'll punish anybody else. I mean, UNC, for God's sakes, UNC had 2 kids sue the university because they left the university with a 6th grade reading level. And the NCAA didn't do anything about that.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's a great school, right?
Yeah,
we think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not YALE, but it's a great school.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Wow.
Yep.
So what are your current thoughts now? It's 2025, heading into 2026. 5 years post NIL. What are your current thoughts on the state of name, image, and likeness?
It's a mess. It's less of a mess today than it was before. The sequel to Alston is the House case, 2025, in which, no pun intended, but schools are permitted to pay student athletes in-house. It was a $2.8 billion settlement, which includes back pay back to 2016 for student athletes whose name, image, and likeness from 16 to 24 was being exploited. I advised a Yale either basketball or football player before January 31 of 25 that he had the right to file a claim. Now, Yale basketball and football has been on, at best, ESPN Plus and occasionally ESPNU. The Ivy men's basketball tournament, I think maybe on the Deuce, ESPN2.
I think we got a 2 game, yeah.
Yeah, at 11 in the morning on a Sunday. But some of those Ivy kids, if they file by Actually, January 31 was extended to October 1st of 25. Got some money.
Okay. One thing I'm not fully, I think, caught up or even understand is, like you mentioned, the settlement won. The $2.8 billion settlement entitled people back to 2016 to get paid for damages. What exactly?
I don't know. We use damages generically. Got paid for having been exploited, having their image exploited.
And how do they quantify that? Like, how do you know?
I mean, it's weird. There was I'm no AI genius. I barely know what it is. But if somehow they stuck like Mason Ship, Yale football into AI, and out pops his social media following, his TV exposure, and the number.
I remember there was an app we were all able to put our names into, and it would tell us how much we should be expected to get.
So did you do it?
I did. For me, it was like $1,600.
Okay, well, so think of somebody at Syracuse or UConn.
Probably.
Yeah.
Upwards of 15, 20.
Or
some
or 50.
Yeah, some even bigger. And then since then, the most recent, I think, update is revenue share.
Right. So schools can spend out of their revenue, ticket sales, TV revenue, apparel sales, up to $20.5 million on student athletes. The Big Ten came up with guidance early on, 75% football, 18% men's basketball, 5% women's basketball, the rest for the Olympic sports.
Wow. 78, 15, 5, you said.
Yeah. Yep.
Where are we at there? That's 98?
Yeah.
So 2% to the rest of the sports.
Olympic sports, yeah.
So they're getting nothing.
Well, what's on top of revenue share? NIL still.
NIL.
Right. So listen, Yale's pretty good in lacrosse. Cornell won it this year. So let's take a car dealership up in Ithaca. If they want the two top Cornell lacrosse players to show up on Sundays, sign autographs, and do 60-second pieces on radio, they can pay them as long as for NIL, a legitimate business purpose, pick a number, 25, 35,000.
And I know for revenue share, obviously it was an opt-in, opt-out, but starting with opt-in, you said they can pay up to. So that means schools can decide to pay not much.
So Rutgers we talked about. Rutgers is at $20.5 million. UConn, which even though they had a great win against Duke in football last Saturday, is at $18 million. And the formula I just gave you for the Big Ten, throw it out the window with UConn.
Okay.
I'm going to guess, and certainly don't hold me to it, I'm going to guess men's basketball, somewhere between 7 and 8 million. Women's basketball and football, somewhere around 3.5 million, the rest for their Olympic sports. UConn's pretty good in soccer. They're pretty good in field hockey.
Now, what do you think about that? Well, I'm talking about the Ivy League in a second, but what do you think about the fact that football and basketball can make all the money? I mean, necessarily they are bringing in, obviously.
It's revenue-based. The question you want to ask me is the following. Is there a Title IX violation?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting issue. There's 2 lawsuits pending right now nationally over that issue. Women arguing, of course, wait a minute. So the way Title IX works, let's pick UConn. If 52% of the UConn population is women, 48% is men, then 52% of the scholarship money needs to go to women. So the women, even though they're not making that precise argument, would argue we want 52% of the rev share. But listen, UConn women's basketball is the best in the country. They're going to win it this year. You can throw some money in FanDuel right now if you want.
Well, I can't.
Well, of course you can. But you can bet on pros, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
I think it's starting next month that we can now bet on pros.
Okay. So, yeah, UConn's going to beat LSU.
That's your prediction?
By 11.
That's your prediction?
In April. Well, just so you know, I was 1 point off on the UConn game last night.
Really? Okay, yeah. So you know your stuff.
I know a little. Yeah.
So I'll send you this clip back in April. I'll send you this clip you guessed it 5 months ago.
Yeah. Isn't your next question, so who's going to be in the men's?
Who's going to be in the men's?
Good question.
Yale.
Good question. No, but Yale can win a game or two. Yale's going to win the Ivy, and they're going to beat, it's been a while, Harvard is going to finish second this year.
You think so?
Yep. I know so.
You know so.
It's Yale, Harvard, and the rest.
They have that player, Robert Hinton.
They have that player, and he's got a brother, Adam Hinton, who's at Cornell, who's really good. But Harvard also has Myron Pijay, who's really good, and they have a good freshman class. So Yale, it's been a while since Yale-Harvard in New Haven basketball was as boisterous as Yale-Princeton. This will be the year.
You told me, we were talking about the Yale basketball a few days ago, and it's crazy for me to even think that Yale basketball, you talked about how good you think they are. It's crazy for me knowing how much talent they've had, that they just continue to be very good.
Let's go back to 2015. I mean, when you have Mekhi Mason, you have Paul Atkinson, Jordan Bruner, Brandon Sherrod, Javier Duran. I mean, Yale has had great basketball players. Yale has had players every bit as good, if not better, than the middle of the Big Ten and the Big East.
Now, with that comment, it's only right that we talk about NIL in the Ivy League.
I don't remember NIL in the Ivy League.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is why I want to talk about it.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. I do remember. I think the commissioner of the Ivy League said we have legitimate NIL. Everything else is pay for play.
Everything like revenue share.
Everywhere else.
Everything else.
Everybody else is pay for play. We are pure.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's nonsense. Why? I think it's a potential antitrust violation.
Okay.
Why are you treating your student athletes who may spend, you tell me how many, I know you're injured right now, but when you weren't injured a year ago today, in November of 24, how many hours a week were you spending on football?
Probably during the week, about Tuesday through Friday, probably about 8 hours a day. Weekend game day from 8 to 5. Sundays from 10 to 5. So, yeah, I mean.
Why are you different than a player at UMass or a player at UConn?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And I'm going to say this, and I've met hundreds of Ivy League athletes, and I haven't met somebody who I wouldn't consider to be highly, highly intelligent. You included.
Thank you.
No problem. But the coaches in the Ivy League have some preferred admits, right?
Preferred admits. Like to get people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I live in Westport, Connecticut, pretty relatively affluent suburban town. If a regular middle-class kid like me had a 1560 on the SATs and a 3.9 average at Staples High School, he or she has no chance of getting into Yale, Harvard, or Princeton. Zero. But if that same kid was a great lacrosse player, woman or man, lower numbers, really good lacrosse player. We should take Brunswick probably in Greenwich, okay? Kid's getting in. So if you're going to do that, and I applaud you for doing that, because it's really a good piece of fabric for the university. Why not at least treat them like everybody else? Now, the answer we're going to get is because we're better, we're different, we're arrogant. But you know what? You're getting no better of an education at Yale than you are at Northwestern, at Stanford, at Rice, at Vanderbilt, at Duke. So why are you different? Why are you special? Yeah, I've heard the recruiting pitch. It's a 40-year decision. It's not a 4-year decision.
4 for 40. That's what we get told.
Okay, but why don't they get told that at Duke or Vanderbilt?
I'm not sure.
Maybe they do.
Maybe, but they also get paid.
And they get paid. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing from my perspective, obviously being here for 5 years. I think students, the way they feel is that the way we get, the preferred admission is enough for us because we're already taking away spots from other people who are more deserving, which I disagree with. But that's kind of the impression I've got from students and also the people.
Deserving and those two numbers, the 1580 and the 39, have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, you could have had a 1270 and a 33 and be a brilliant college student, end up being, a microbiologist. You may have a bad Saturday for your SATs or your ACTs.
Yeah. Well, then my question to you, Actually, let's go scholarships.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit pending in the Federal District Court of New Haven. Do you know what forum shopping is?
I do not.
Okay. Forum shopping is when you can bring a lawsuit in a number of places and you choose where you think it would be most beneficial. So the plaintiffs, Tamanung Cho, who played basketball at Brown, and Grace, I'm blanking on her last name. She played basketball at Brown also. Blanking on her last name. They chose New Haven. Ironically, the case goes to a Princeton undergraduate, Yale Law School judge, which I think is kind of funny. But
Wow.
not that the judge would be biased. I'm not saying a judge would be biased, but I just think that's one of the great ironies. The lawsuit is still pending.
And this is scholarships.
Yeah. Here's the argument. It's 1953, and the Ivy League presidents meet, I think, on Cape Cod or Martha's Vineyard, and they decide, of course, they're going to meet there. Right. They're not going to meet in Akron, Ohio. Right. We know that. And they decide that they're going to have a football conference called the Ivy League. That's how it started.
Yeah.
A football conference. But no scholarships. So if in 1953, the Yale AD, actually it might have been Delaney Kippeth, but in 1953, if the Yale AD independently, and the Princeton AD independently, and the Harvard AD independently said no scholarships, that would be cool. But when you get together as a cabal, and you collude, theoretically, then there could be a Sherman antitrust violation.
Okay, so up until 1953, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, so on, they were all independent universities.
But they played each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were just like, there was no formed Ivy League. The Ivy League wasn't a term.
Right. I think they were maybe in the ECAC.
ECAC.
Yeah.
That's like the hockey conference right now, right?
I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I go to Yale basketball games.
There we go.
Okay.
And they formed, I've always was aware that the Ivy League term was coined from the football conference. And I wasn't sure that's like the only reason the Ivy League was formed. That's the only reason.
You know what? I can't tell you categorically
Okay. Yeah.
that it's the only reason, but it was the precipitating factor.
Interesting. And the argument that's in court right now goes back to kind of
that meeting, which my understanding came up with no scholarships as a grouping.
What are your thoughts on that?
The argument made by the other side is you don't have to go here. You can go to the schools I just listed. You can go to Rice.
Yeah.
You can go to Vanderbilt. You know the situation before you're coming here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you and I discussed that on the phone. It's not like you stepped foot on Yale 5 years ago, September, and somebody said, "Oh, by the way, there's no athletic scholarships here."
Yeah.
You knew it. I mean, that's a big hurdle to overcome. That argument, because you're not forced to go here.
No, you're not.
I mean, yeah, if you go to Yale, you do have access to a great alumni network, but you have a similar, not the same, a similar access elsewhere.
Off the Leash podcast is brought to you by Skinletics. Now listen, if you've never used light therapy before, you should have started yesterday. But the good thing is there's still lots of time. It is the best thing for you recovery-wise. If you're an athlete and you like working out, it really helps reduce inflammation. And if you're somebody who just cares about their health and well-being, they have a face mask that's really good for anti-aging and anti-acne properties. I'm gonna put the link in the description. On top of all of that, they make amazing apparel as I'm sporting right now. Listen, if you watch our podcast, if you're a part of the OTL community, you gotta tap into Skinletics. Go ahead, check it out. Hope you enjoy. Let's get back to the episode.
Back to NIL in the Ivy League scholarships. I typically agree with you in the scholarship sense. The NIL part's interesting because, like you mentioned,
Wasn't your
I usually press record. Oh, that's a good call. Thank you. I appreciate it.
okay?
I typically tend to agree with you. The NIL part's tricky for me because I want to hear from your perspective. What do you think the Ivy League could be if they changed NIL policy?
Well, we discussed a few minutes ago that Cornell won the national championship in lacrosse last year. The Ivy League's not winning a national championship in football, even though Harvard, listen, you guys could beat Harvard in a couple weeks. Harvard could contend for the national championship, FCS in football this year, but a Yale basketball team, if you added, a big time center that maybe is gonna, and I like Samson Allerton, but if you added another big time center and a big time point guard, that's a team that can beat anybody. I mean, could they win a national championship? They could be an Elite Eight team. Princeton could have been an Elite Eight team 3 years ago when they went to the Sweet 16. They just had a bad matchup with Creighton.
Mm-hmm. The question I always ask myself with these topics is what the implications of this for me are like, what could the league be if scholarships were a thing and NIL was a thing, which is the only reason I think it's even like relevant, because in my opinion, obviously there's some of the most prestigious institutions academically in the world, and if you pair it with the same rules that everyone else has, there's kind of no reason not to go to one of these institutions. It's kind of how I see it.
You know when things went sideways?
What?
1979.
What happened that year?
Penn went to the Final Four. And Ivy League people freaked out. If you researched it, you'll find a scathing article by a guy named William Wallace in the New York Times saying, what is happening in our world? The University of Pennsylvania from the Ivy League is in the Final Four, along with, that's a Final Four that made the NBA. You know who else was in that Final Four?
Who?
Magic and Larry.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
Wow. So tell me more about this. You said what was the big deal? That they made
It was
the
a
Final
freak
Four?
out. Well, we can't be in a Final Four of Michigan State and Indiana State.
Why?
Because we're academic institution,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not compatible, which is BS.
Mm-hmm.
You would agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
Stanford, Duke,
Yeah.
Vanderbilt now.
Yep.
So yeah, I disagree. Share more, please.
So that was the beginning of the end of emphasis on football. I told you, off the record that, or on the record, I guess, Dartmouth was 50,000, Princeton was 60,000. The ball was larger then. They took some seating off the top, 70,000 for Harvard. The Ivy League, the sport that really got hurt was football. They fell victim also to an NCAA reg about stadium size. The only Ivy League stadiums that satisfied the stadium size were Franklin Field in Philadelphia and Yale Bowl. I think it's 35,000.
Franklin Field?
No. I think the mandatory minimum was 35,000. Well, what does Brown have? 18, 20?
Yeah, it's super. Yeah,
Dartmouth,
super small.
Right, super small, almost like high school fields in Texas, right?
Yeah, my teammate from Texas, when we walked into Brown actually on Saturday, he said these are smaller than some of our stadiums in Texas.
Of course. So my point being that I don't know that the Ivy League and some of the Ivy League alumni and most of the professors could deal with tremendous success in high visibility sports. High visibility being women's and men's basketball and football. Lacrosse, kind of a preppy sport, preppy kids. We have a lot of preppy kids, so it kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, look at women's basketball last year. Was there? I'm assuming there was no freak out. Princeton, Harvard, and Columbia go to the tournament. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this year's Princeton team, the women, are really, really good. Because of the ridiculousness of the air control stuff that's going on right now, they didn't get to Atlanta until 3 a.m. on Sunday. They beat a really good Georgia Tech team by 8 at 2 p.m.
Wow.
And Princeton's best player, trying to think of her name, blanking on her name, she left Princeton last year to go to Virginia. And that very day, for money, she got paid.
Wait, I didn't know about this.
Yeah, Princeton lost one of their 2 best players last year.
Transferred.
Woman to UVA.
Oh, wow.
Another good school. She'll get a UVA degree. Mm-hmm. She'll play high-level ACC basketball. And, is she a WNBA player? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's so many incongruities here.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the professors not being able to handle high visibility sports having success.
Right.
I don't agree because why? Because in my opinion, I guess we haven't seen it necessarily too much. Like when Princeton made the long run, a few years ago. I think like I saw like reports that they had to like take finals and stuff with
Yeah.
But like, what do you mean that?
Yeah,
they
so
couldn't handle-
like everybody has to take finals.
Yeah.
Kids at Rutgers have to take finals also, but maybe cut them a little slack. Either a Cornell or a Harvard lacrosse player last year had to take a final the morning of the big game. Do you seriously mean
Wow.
that the kid couldn't take the exam the next day?
Mhm.
I mean, that makes no sense to me. Let's hypothesize a concert pianist from Yale who's going to be at Carnegie Hall at 2 p.m. Are you going to tell me that the music department is going to tell this kid that he's got to take a final exam at 10 a.m?
No chance.
No chance.
No chance. Yeah, I think the main thing I've experienced during my time here is that there's some people. It's really a mix. Just to be very clear about that, it's just some people at this institution seem to have something against athletes, and then some don't. Some also really like athletes. I think, and
the dumb jock thing, which
Yes.
is not the case.
it's not the case.
but we know the term,
Yeah.
dumb jock.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of students, professors. That's kind of like the understanding of student athletes if you're on the football team and basketball. I don't know about other sports, but I know football specifically
Have you seen manifestations of it at Yale?
of these professors and
Yeah,
people.
like making snide remarks.
Yes, 100%. During my time here, there has been a lot of times where I feel that I'm not seen to be
A serious student.
a serious student, as high caliber, like, not as smart because I'm a football player. My impression has always been like, let me just like make it very clear that that's not true and kind of like change their minds. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen.
And Mason, I got news for you. The burden's not on you.
Yeah, of course.
No, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
100%. Yeah, listen, you're a top expert on Ivy League hoops, Ivy League sports. I want to hear more from you on this topic of what you think is the ideal Ivy League. Because obviously, I would assume your hope for the league is that it continues to flourish and get better year by year in basketball and football and every sport.
Right.
What do you think is this ideal world that the Ivy League can be living in maybe 10 years?
Limited rev share, better NIL. And we're seeing it sprouting up at the University of Pennsylvania right now. I was on a podcast, Zoom, with Coach McCaffrey, who's the new Penn coach. He played at Penn in 81 through 83,
Okay.
and he coached Iowa. Interesting little tidbit, his son dates Caitlin Clark. and he dropped that she's going to be at one of the games at the Balestra.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I love to inhabit message boards. I mean, especially, the crazy thing is, like last night, Rutgers played Maine in basketball. And after the game, there's probably 800 people posting about it. For the entire season at Yale, on the message boards, there's probably 50 people that are. I'm one of them. There's probably 50 people that are posting. I never understood that because there are passionate fans. But my point is, there's no more fan base in the Ivy League in basketball that is more passionate than Penn. They've got the building. That is a tremendous building. Have you been inside it?
I've never been.
Yeah, that's a great building. That, Cameron at Duke, Hinkle at Butler in Indianapolis, where Hoosiers was filmed, those are great buildings. So they got the building, they got the heritage, third in the country in 1971, Final Four in 1979, and especially the older members of that fan base, they want it back.
So how would Penn even get to that? You just mentioned limited rev share.
Well, they don't do rev share, but they have a collective. In the Ivy League, I've been told, no one from the Ivy League has said it to me, but I've been told that they have discouraged. I don't know how you discourage, but they've discouraged collectives.
The Ivy League has discouraged collectives.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that is filtered down from the presidents to the ADs to the coaches to the alumni. So, here's my question, and no one's going to answer it for me. Let's say that, let's pick Joe Tsai, okay? Joe Tsai gave the money for the lacrosse facility, which is as good as any in the country.
Yeah.
He's got a kid who's a freshman on the basketball team.
Yeah.
Walk on. I mean, well, there's no scholarships, but I'm sure I've seen him practice. He's got a decent handle, but he's not going to play a lot of minutes. What would happen if Joe Tsai went to the new Yale president and said, you know what? I want to give $50 million to Yale men's basketball, and I want it to be used in part for NIL.
Would he be able to do that?
Well, he'd be able to ask. The question is,
okay.
What would the response be?
Understood.
I don't know what the response would be.
Mm-hmm. So Penn's collective, how does that work? Do you know?
Penn's collective is a little different from others. A lot of the other collectives are subscription-based. So let's say like at Ohio State, you could, let's call it Buckeye Nation. You could be a member of Buckeye Nation and monthly pay like, let's say you pay $19.99 a month and you'll get a newsletter. You pay $49.99 a month, you get a piece of memorabilia. You pay $99.99 a month and you get access to a player or something like that. That's more traditional. Duke, and there's a Wall Street Journal article about this either a year or 2 years ago. Duke did it in-house with like 5 business school, private equity type people. And they've got tight reins on it. I've been told that's what's going on at Penn as well. I'm not sure if they're lawyers or private equity people.
And
they're aggregating the money, and I don't know how it's being parceled out.
I did not know about this. I didn't know collectives were allowed. I remember.
You can't. The stuff that the Ivy League says they don't want, they can't stop. I know factually, no names, that a couple of Ivy League schools paid players last year. Won't name the sport. What can the Ivy League do? Can they tell XYZ institution that they can't participate in the Ivy League tournament? I don't know. No, I mean, other than that, what else could they do? They can't put the team on probation. The Ivy League doesn't have the teeth that they think they may have if and when somebody decides to go into a courtroom. And what I don't get is there's 8 schools, and let's be candid, there's a hierarchy. There's Yale, Harvard, and Princeton, and then there's the rest. People would scream at me at Dartmouth and Brown.
No, I think it's fair. I think it's like typically what we hear here is like you have HYP, then you have Penn, and then you have the rest. That's kind of how I've always been told.
I never heard of.
You never heard of that?
I never heard of Penn in the middle, but
okay, that's why.
My wife went there, but
no, never heard of that.
Never heard that. I mean, with all these wealthy, influential alumni, some of whom were athletes, why isn't somebody saying, I'm sorry, I'm starting a collective. I'm going to pay a player. Maybe it's going on behind the scenes. I mean, when you talk about the University of Pennsylvania with the number 1 or the number 2 B school, Wharton,
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And $250,000 is a drop in the bucket to some people.
Yeah. My assumption of this has always been that we just weren't allowed to. Now that you bring up this
I don't know what allowed means.
I know.
You got to help me with allowed, and I got to help you with allowed.
I know. What do you know what rules are in place from the Ivy League that are like restrictions?
The Ivy. So right now under NIL, as of July 1 of 25, all deals, non-rev share, but NIL deals over $600 have to be approved by Deloitte, the accounting firm. The Ivy League has put another layer on top of that. I think 2,000 or 2,500, one of those two numbers. And I don't get that one. I don't know what that means. So if there's once again, if there's a car dealer in New Haven and the car dealership happens to love Mason Ship more than any other player for whatever reason, or you're the best player on the team and they're UGL football fans, why can't they pay you $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 if you do legitimate stuff for them. And when I say legitimate stuff, I mean, when I was practicing law on a daily basis, I'm working 10 hours a day. I'm not asking you to work 10 hours a day. I'm asking you to show up at the dealership in Woodbridge from 12 to 2 on a Saturday, sign 50 autographs, do selfies, and do a promo for a podcast. It's not too strenuous.
Not too strenuous. My question, isn't collectives essentially pay for play? That's why I'm curious.
Not if there's a legitimate business purpose.
So collectives, similarly to what you just mentioned, even if there's a collective, there still needs to be a business purpose behind it to get you
there
paid.
does. Right. 2 years ago, a year ago, no, it was straight pay for play. And one can argue that rev share is straight pay for play.
And this is a nation thing, or this is an Ivy League thing? There needs to be a business purpose behind it?
Well, the NCAA has a reg that says that now.
Understood.
So, yeah, I mean, but business purpose is really a freaking loose term.
That's a gray area.
Yeah, it's a gray area. Exactly.
Big time. So there's the only thing that the Ivy League is not allowing players to have is rev share. We opted out of the rev share, so we cannot be a part of the revenue share.
Yeah, but yes, you're accurate. But my answer to you is, Xavier Lee leaves Princeton, goes to Florida for $2 million in NIL and $4 or $4.2 million in a shoe deal. Why is no kid in the Ivy League? I mean, there's athletes comparable to Xavier in the Ivy League today. Why is that not happening?
Like them leaving?
No, staying and getting paid. Why isn't some rich alumnus with a company or a hedge fund or whatever paying some kid comparably? I mean, what would happen if Nike, instead of Phil Knight at Oregon, was owned by a Penn grad, and Nike was paying Penn players $100,000 to wear their sneakers and to do a promo? I mean, what would the Ivy League would freak out, I would think. And by the way, when we keep saying the Ivy League, the Ivy League, the Ivy League, it isn't the Ivy League office. They're nice people, but they're functionaries to a large extent. This is the presidents. We're dealing with 8 people.
Got you.
Okay? And I will tell you this, Mason. I decided in March or April of 25 that I would write letters to the Ivy League presidents setting forth what you and I are discussing right now. I sent one to Princeton. I sent one to Penn. I sent one to Cornell, Columbia, and Brown. I decided to stay away from Yale for a number of reasons. So I did 5, kind of as a test case. I got a long response from the University of Pennsylvania president. Maybe it's because I mentioned in the letter that my mother-in-law passed away, but my mother-in-law, my brothers-in-law, my niece all went to Penn. I don't know, but he responded and he said, very interesting. A lot on our plate right now with, the October 7 and everything that happened after October 7 with protests and all that stuff. Certainly something we'll consider discussing. I got a response from Brown. Was it Brown? I got one other response. I might have written to Harvard and gotten the response, thank you, but no thank you from Harvard. Nobody else responded to me.
And what are these letters? What were you laying out in these letters?
What are you guys doing? Come on. Do something serious. If you're going to have special admits, and once again, I'm not criticizing you. They're good students. Some of them are great students. Listen, Nick Townsend's brother was a Rhodes Scholar. Maybe Nick Townsend will be a Rhodes Scholar someday. We're talking about, by the way, 2 Yale basketball players, okay? Well, why are you not doing what everybody else is doing? Is it out of arrogance, Mr. President, Miss President?
It is a fascinating topic just because of how many good athletes and how many smart people we have in the league. And when I
You don't corner the market on smart people.
What do you mean?
The Ivy League. There's smart people at other schools also.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Yeah.
It's very fair. But I mean, like, you mentioned like a Nick Townsend type of guy, special athlete.
And Matt Townsend was his brother. Matt Townsend was a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah.
Matt Townsend had his Rhodes Scholar interview, I believe, in a morning and played in a Yale basketball game in the evening.
Yeah, it's like players like that. When I hear those stories in my head, I'm like, where are their sponsorships? Where are their deals? Because surely a company wants to align with a person like that.
You would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. My barrier is always like, as being an athlete myself, it seems like there's just not the knowledge. Like this conversation opened up a lot of my eyes because I just didn't know. You mentioned the collective. I didn't know collectives were allowed in the Ivy League. I didn't know.
I don't know if they. Well, okay, once again, let's use that word. You know, you and I could spend an hour on what allowed means. Does allowed mean can't stop? I don't know what allowed means. But the Penn coach said, today's Tuesday, last Thursday, we have a collective. You can Google it. Because the Daily Pennsylvanian wrote about it.
Yeah, what you just mentioned is important. What does allowed mean? What is can't stop? So I guess when it comes to the new world of college athletics, scholarships in the Ivy League are not allowed.
Correct.
Rev share is currently not allowed.
Well, I mean, but let's go back to scholarships. Okay? It's my understanding that if your family earns less than $150,000, you go for free.
Financially, yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay, so that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So, scholarships not allowed. Some exceptions based on financial background,
Circumstances, yeah.
Rev share not allowed. In writing, NIL needs to be reported over $2,000, over $600, but allowed. And then collectives, gray area.
Correct. Well, no, not a gray area. There's no collectives. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Yes, gray area. Correct. You're correct.
Nothing stopping anybody from starting a collective. There's just kind of this notion that they shouldn't be a thing.
I said to an Ivy League coach, no names, what would happen if I started a collective tomorrow? I aggregated $300,000. The coach said to me, I don't know.
Interesting. So there's a lot to the future. Should be interesting.
You used the word future. So I think your next question probably is, where are we going to go? If Mason Shipp and I are doing this 3 years from today, what is it going to look like? I think, let's stay away from the Ivy for a second. I think that we're going to have an employer-employee relationship between universities and student athletes, that there's going to be unionization, that there's going to be collective bargaining for things like, Dartmouth tried to collective bargaining basketball last year. I don't know if you know that.
I did know about that, and I haven't heard anything about it since.
Yeah, well, they were successful. Their first foray before the National Labor Relations Board Boston office was successful. For some reason, it got dropped. Strangely, this is how it happened. One of the Dartmouth basketball players also worked in the cafeteria, and the cafeteria workers at Dartmouth had a union. So he's a member of a union, but he's not a member of a union for basketball. That's kind of how it started. So I think we're going to have that in 3 years, and I think the Ivy League, some people say 3 years from today, the Ivy League will go D3 in sports. I don't see it.
No way.
I don't see it because there'd be a revolt among a lot of alumni, a lot of donors. I'm going to hope and pray it gets better, and that it steps a little bit. That will be 2028. It steps a little bit into 2028.
So you said employer-employee relationship between universities and athletes, unionization, and then you said one more thing.
Collective bargaining. That they'll be able to bargain. Like, let's say your football team is not happy with the turf in Cox Cage. Is that where you still indoors? Is that where you practice?
We don't have an indoor. For
Okay.
football, we just go outside. Typically.
Okay, well, let's say if you had an indoor facility and you weren't happy with the turf, there were a lot of injuries, and you wanted the turf to be fixed, that would be something you could collectively bargain for.
And right now we can't do that, surely.
Not as a grouping.
Not as a group.
You know.
And then employer-employee relationship, obviously, that's where it seems like everything's
Yeah,
heading.
Congress. So I put together some draft legislation in Senate to Senators Tuberville and Manchin, he's not a senator anymore, in December of 22, I believe, maybe 23, I don't know if anything happened with that, but I do know that our senator, one of our senators in Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, is really into this stuff. And our country's kind of in a mess right now with, a strike and all that stuff. But I'm thinking in 26, some of this stuff might get before the Senate and the House in terms of possible legislation.
And then the last thing, unionization, that's essentially just we have
a union. We as a union can bargain with the Yale president, with the Yale athletic director about, the little thing that we talked about before, taking a final exam the morning of a national championship game. I mean, that is not the Ivy League said it with pride. I think it might have been the championship game. I remember someone saying, "Hey, how great is this that we?" No, that's not cool. Give the kid a break, man. 50 years from that day, I got news for you. The kid's not going to remember his graduation date at Yale or Cornell. He's going to remember playing for a national championship.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, these Princeton kids that were on that Sweet 16 team that almost went to the Elite Eight, 50 years from now, they're going to have fond memories of Princeton. But in the first sentence of their discussion with their grandkids, hey, I was on a team that went to the Sweet 16.
He's not talking about the final exam.
Right.
Yeah.
That's important stuff.
It is.
I mean, you've won the Ivy Championship in football.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. That was big time for you, right?
Pretty cool.
How would you feel if, and I get you were the representative for, is it called SAC?
Yep.
Okay. And I give you credit because you guys got it done into the playoffs. It was insane that you couldn't play in the playoffs. But how would you feel if you were on a team that won the national championship in football? Even, I don't want to say even though it's only FCS.
I mean, it's just,
you beat North Dakota State 38-31 for a national championship.
That would be unworldly. I mean, that would be such an experience.
How important, you're how old now?
I'm 23.
You're 23, right. You got another 60 years. 60 years down the road, where do you think that national championship would have ranked in your life?
Probably top 3.
Okay. Right.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. A national championship, I think about it a lot. So when we did the proposal, the thought I had in my head was, well, one, I'd never played in a playoff game before in my entire life. Like going back to Pee Wee football, I just never, I don't know why, but I went to prep school, so I didn't have playoffs. So the thought of a playoff game, even though people say FCS, the idea of like Yale, Villanova in the first round of the FCS playoffs, you see the FCS playoff banners around. It's just a different environment and something that like is special. And I think, like you mentioned, that opportunity is super cool for student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, there's Cornell kids at Cornell right now that just won a national championship in lacrosse. Those kids have been playing lacrosse since they were 5. Okay, and some of those kids are going to play professional lacrosse. Those kids are going to teach their kids how to play lacrosse, sons or daughters. Okay, that's, once again, I'm going to go with top 3.
100%.
Yep.
100%. I'm feeling very good about this conversation. I want to make sure I open up anything else for you before we finish up.
I'm hoping that there's change. If your listeners would like to go onto Amazon and take a look at The Madness of Ivy Basketball by Richard Kent, that would be great. If you want to follow me on Twitter at Richard37215662. Well, Richard, why do you have that stupid handle? Because I couldn't figure out how to do anything else. So I accepted what they gave me. But I've got 2,500 hardcore sports fans, many Ivy League fans that follow me.
Awesome. Well, Richard, I really appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation for me. I will say subscribe to Off the Leash podcast for all my listeners. And it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.